Under the scope. Hey, Scope
Take two.
Hey, Scope fans. Jared and Shane here for another Scope movie preview. This time around, we are checking out the movie The Walk, which is getting a little bit of Oscar buzz, at least for some of the performances.
Is it really?
In this film. I've seen some rumbles.
Okay.
I don't know if that's based on preconceptions of what the film could be or actual critical commentary, but we'll get into it and we'll let you know what we think.
We're going to give it to you straight.
So, Jared, please tell everyone who's in this movie and maybe a little bit about the story.
There's only two names I remember. One of them is Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the lead role as Philippe Petit.
Philippe Petit, a little Frenchman.
The other one is Sir Ben Kingsley, playing a Czech wire walker. Totally forgotten what his character name was.
And Ben Schwartz is in
Ben
it as
Schwartz.
well.
There's that.
And there's a lot of other French
people.
French actors, it seems to be.
Right. So this film takes place mostly in 1974, a little bit in 1973, and in years previous. But it tells the tale of Philippe Petit and his quest to string a wire between the nearly complete Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York.
Based on a true story, by the way.
Based on a true story. This actually happened. Whether or not it actually happened exactly this way is up. We'll never know.
We'll never know the truth. We'll jump into Wikipedia, Jared. That's what we'll do.
Well,
we will find out.
Or you could watch the documentary Man on the Wire.
Yes. Somebody asked me earlier today, why would they make a movie when they had a great documentary about the story? Somebody asked me that question.
Because everyone wants to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt do a French accent. That's why you do the movie.
Yes.
Anyway, so he is taken with the circus at a young age, and specifically the wire walking, and he sort of trains himself to walk wires and juggle and do all kinds of tricks of that sort.
He's a trickster.
He's a trickster. He's a performer. And so he sort of plies his trade in the streets of Paris.
Gay Paris,
where he puts on shows in the streets, looks for fun places to hang his wire, and he's always looking to up the ante until finally one day he notices in the office of a dentist waiting room an article about the nearly complete World Trade Center towers, and he says
that's the ultimate challenge.
This is where I will hang my wire. And so he starts to hatch a plan. He starts building his team of what he calls accomplices.
For his coup.
One of which is a fetching Parisian woman. Was she Parisian? I don't even know if she was French or if she was... Her accent was kind of all over the place, so I'm not really sure what she was, but her name is Annie. Couldn't tell you who played her because I didn't look at the credits.
Had a bit of Andy McDowell hair.
A little bit. But you will know her because she's the only prominent female role in this entire film.
We don't need them.
Only one. I mean, there is a female receptionist at the dentist's office. There are random women around the streets of New York and Paris, but really the only main role is this one woman, and that might be a problem.
Maybe that's how the story is, Jared.
I know.
How dare you?
I guess there weren't enough women in 1974 to give them more than one role. Anyway.
Maybe just in Philippe Petit's story.
So, that's the story, basically. Yep. His goal is to string a wire across these two towers.
Hatch an intricate plan.
And he's going to walk
almost
across
like a heist movie in a way.
It is. It plays out very much like a heist movie. So, that's the story.
It is directed and co-written by Robert Zemeckis. You will know him from Back to the Future. You will know him from Forrest Gump. You will know him from Castaway.
It has that very Zemeckis nostalgia feel to it. Whether you like that or not, that's up to you.
Sometimes it works. Like, it worked well in Forrest Gump. Although some might say that movie does not hold up as well because of its broad emotional spectrum that it has and maybe simplistic nature.
I haven't seen it recently.
And this movie definitely follows that template in a lot of ways. The one thing we didn't talk about is we have all these characters, but you definitely have the Twin Towers as a character in the film.
Very much so.
Whenever you see the Twin Towers in any sort of frame of reference, immediately there's a feeling of seriousness and sadness. And I think that this was his way of showing the towers in a positive light, almost like a love letter to the Twin Towers. And sometimes it worked, and sometimes it did not.
Sometimes it feels
very
heavy.
Yes,
heavy and forced, and
the feather fluttering in the wind as it goes through the beginning of Forrest Gump. Sometimes it feels a lot like that.
Yeah,
which maybe worked the first time you saw it done in Forrest Gump, but when he repeats some of those larger emotional beats in other movies, it feels played. It feels like it's been done before. So then it does not feel as emotionally true.
It feels like a bit of a trick of the trade for him.
Yeah, exactly, like a device.
Yes.
The other problem with this film is the main character himself and the framing device they have to tell the story. Philippe is talking to a camera, essentially, on the top of the Statue of Liberty in
gifted to America by France.
Yes.
Of course. How more perfect could you get?
With pretty suspect special effects, really.
Kind of.
I mean, it felt very blue screeny.
Yeah.
And then you've got Joseph talking in a French accent, which may be exactly how Philippe sounds in real life, but it sounds like an American doing a French accent.
It comes off like a corny French accent, even if it's right.
So it takes you out of it immediately.
I think
immediately, and it's from the word go.
I think you've hit the nail on the head on what the number one problem with this film is, and it's that it's being narrated by our protagonist throughout the entire thing, and he comes across with this preciousness, this arrogance,
and a weirdness too. And he probably is that way in real life because you have to be a bit nuts to do this.
Yes,
but it just comes across as like
very
I'm a crazy
artistic,
person.
And maybe if you're invigorated by that type of person, maybe you're gonna like it. Me, I find it as maybe it's because I'm introverted, but I find that kind of person exhausting,
grating,
and it really made the film kind of a slog for me.
Yeah, especially the scenes prior to them setting up the wire.
Yeah.
I mean, once they got to the wire setup, it had a lot more tension, no pun intended, but it worked well. The narration of the film fades away and you're really working with these guys, or you're with these guys as they're working through these problems of trying to set up the wire, and it worked. And even the beginning part of the wire walk worked until he kept walking back and forth and then all the tension is drained.
It starts to get silly.
Yeah.
And maybe that's how it was in real life.
And I think that it was trying to be silly. Like, that is Philippe. That is crazy, silly Philippe.
Even walking high wire, 110 stories above the ground with no safety net, no safety wire.
As his foot is bleeding out from a wound that he got a few weeks earlier. But sometimes there is no blood there because it just depends on when they choose to show that special
whether or not we want to
on.
ratchet that tension up or not.
Yeah, it's an
unintended.
It's an odd film, Jared.
It is.
And I struggled with it.
I agree with you. I struggled with 2/3 of this film. I think the third act, once we're seeing the thing we came here to see, it is for the most part successful.
But it's like a 45-minute film.
Exhilarating. But then it's and then you end it with that last shot just made me go, ugh, really?
Which, you know what, it gave me a little bit of the feels. It's a definite focus on the Twin Towers, but at the same time, it is
bathed in beautiful glowing light.
I mean, it's a very intentional thing.
Yeah. It was not subtle in any way.
And sometimes when you put in intention to things like that, it takes away from the greatness and the importance of what it is. At least that's how I felt about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just we talk about this a lot when we see films and films that struggle finding what their tone is. And I think this is sort of a mixed bag as well. It wants to be light and fun at times. It wants to be very serious and artistic and precious and pretentious at times.
But every time you show that, and there's the guy with the high pants and the Marilyn Monroe bikini T-shirt,
right, unlocking his door with a key. So quaint.
But what I was trying to say is every time, it sort of goes into this weird, light-hearted tone, which you have it, in the performances, you have it in the visuals, you have it in the acting, but then whenever it cuts to the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center, it's like everything changes because you know what those stand for.
Yeah.
And you can't get that out of your head.
Yeah.
It's like, I get what Zemeckis is trying to do with this, but I don't know. I don't know if you can ever look at the towers the way that he's trying to portray them again.
You've got the weight of the real world kind of bearing down on it. If they had never fallen 14 years ago, then maybe this film can kind of juggle those tones a bit better.
And they try to make this connection that maybe his wire walking is what made New York love the towers. Like, wait a second here.
I don't know.
I mean, maybe that's the case, but I'll tell you one thing. I mean, in my lifetime, whether the towers were up or down, I mean, the wire walking was a curiosity, but it certainly wasn't something that defined the tone of what people thought of the towers.
Hey, you're not a real New Yorker. You don't know.
I don't believe it, though. I don't believe it. It comes across as false and constructed.
Yeah, it feels like it puts a little bit more importance and weight on that particular moment in defining how the city would feel about these towers going forward.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe and to get back to some of the other choices, maybe as the main role, you get a real Frenchman to play it. So it does not seem as silly as what it was. I think it was a huge mistake for Joseph. I really do. I
don't know that he was. Yeah, I don't blame him necessarily. I think I blame maybe the casting and I blame the directing. Because I think he did a fine job doing what he was asked to do.
Yeah, but I want to see how close he is to the real person.
Right. It does make me want to watch the documentary to see how much he is like the real person. So I mentioned earlier, that there's really only one prominent female role in this film, and yes, I know, maybe that's being true to the cast of characters that surrounded.
There are not a lot of characters in the film, generally speaking.
Right.
So,
and I know you got to pick and choose who you show, but still, at some point, you need to remember that there are women in the world and women who participate in history, and maybe start including them.
There we go.
I mean, come on,
even if you have to make up a character for the movie,
right? Well, I mean, the problem it's not only that there's only one; it's the fact that she doesn't have anything significant to do. Her role is to support Philippe.
Yeah, and then
she's there to be the love interest, to basically tell him, to help guide him when he's making a sort of a misstep with his own crew, and really nothing more. She doesn't have any sort of reason for being other than that. She's an artist, I guess, but you see that early in the film, and then she does nothing else throughout the remainder of the film other than be there to support him. That's her own reason for being, and so I just feel like that was just an empty shell of a character that was just, it was a waste. I hunger for roles where they're real people, not just sticks to support our lead actor. Well, I don't know how to say it better, but that's, you understand that I'm frustrated.
Clearly another fly in the ointment that is the walk. So let's stop complaining and start giving it a score.
Mm-hmm. The Scope score is 2 stars.
So 2 stars.
Middle of the road.
Middle of the road, and I think in some cases it's generous. But at the same time, it did have a good 45 minutes of exhilarating tension.
If you can overlook, I think, what are, as you said earlier, some suspect special effects. I don't think that the CG or the compositing was all that successful all the time.
Yeah.
I think other than a few shots here and there, the 3D was a complete waste of time.
Yeah.
Honestly.
It did give depth, and there
weren't very many times where you were like looking straight down and going, whoa. There was one shot where it sort of plummets to the ground and gets a little willies, but
yeah.
And there were a couple shots I was looking at, and you're watching Philippe walk across the wire, and obviously it's Joseph Gordon-Levitt walking on a blue screen, because he's not really doing that, and it looked a little bit like he's just sort of gliding, like it didn't feel real.
Like there was weight to his movement.
I don't know.
Maybe that's how Philippe moves. I don't know.
I just think they could have done better.
Overall, it's a misstep.
I think so.
It's a misstep. So, Jared, tell everybody how they can interact with us and complain about our heartless, emotionless review of The Walk.
Well, you can like, comment, and subscribe right down below. What were the early reviews on this film?
I don't know if I've seen a lot of them, so...
I think it was... I don't know how many were in on Rotten Tomatoes, but I thought it was at least in the 70s, so... We'll see.
We are callous, cold bastards that clearly cannot have our hearts moved.
Indeed.
So we'll have more movie reviews coming. I mean, it is fall. Things are happening very quickly, so make sure you...
Maybe something from Tom Hanks next week.
You keep up with the Scope crew. We'll keep up with you. So for Jared, I am Shane. Bye for now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves once again at the end. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I know I have. Fear not, Scope faithful. Days shall pass as if they were but a moment, and Jared, Adam, and Shane will return with another thrilling episode. Until then, send your comments to comments@thescopeshow.com or leave a voicemail message by dialing
612-21-SCOPE. That's 612-217-2673.
Thanks for listening, faithful fans. This is Tony Partington saying arrivederci. Tune in next time to another terrific edition of The Scope.